What's going on, people? Welcome to the match preview show. It's the big one before the biggest one of the season so far. It's Arsenal away. I'm joined by Lou, Pat, and Nick here to discuss the game. What do we do? How important is this game? Do we care? Rotations and more. Make sure to get involved by dropping a like and subscribing and letting us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Bit more positive today from everyone. We had laughs before the show started because we didn't get spanked 5-0, which of course helps. But let's quickly start with the Bournemouth game. Lou and I was at the game sitting together. Nick, you was also at the game.
Yeah.
I thought the atmosphere was just dull. Like, you wouldn't think that we're going to Wembley in a week's time. Pre-Bournemouth, we were singing about Wembley in every single game. Well, pre-Man City, let's say. Wembley every single game. The atmosphere was great, but against Bournemouth, it wasn't quite there. But what are you thinking about the Arsenal game in comparison to the Bournemouth one? Do you think the fans will be up for a bit more?
Well, the fans definitely be up for Arsenal away. It's a good away game, that. You know, the fact you can get to Highbury, Islington from Norwood Junction, it helps, doesn't it? So it's a nice, easy journey. The Bournemouth game, you said before the show that you nearly went home at half time. And I said, well, I nearly did. And I think the crowd reflected the game. It's although the HF are good at geeing the players up when needed. You know, think about Brighton a couple of weeks ago. So I noticed a few empty seats. I think people are just, I don't know, footballed out a bit.
I think it's the results. I don't know what Lou and Pat thinks, but I think it's the previous results. So going into this game, I think Lou, you mentioned it in the previous preview show that you didn't expect that atmosphere to be that great going into Bournemouth because, I mean, we've conceded 10 goals in the last 2 games. I think it's more down to that, more than anything. And that's why we had to stop whatever was going on in defence and keep a clean sheet, because I think now for Arsenal, there's a bit more confidence going into that game from both the fans and the players.
Yeah, I knew the atmosphere was going to be like that. You can tell normally before a game by the amount of people trying to sell tickets, the amount of tickets on the ticket swap website. Yeah, and like people are always quick to blame players and say how crap the players have been and this and that. But when the team needed us to turn up, but the fans weren't really getting behind it. Only when maybe we got a corner in the second half or one of those throw-ins from Lerma or Richards did anyone kind of get up off their feet. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and stand like I had a drum trying to get it going myself. But yeah, it wasn't it really. It felt like quite like a family day, like we weren't really caring about the league. But I think it also has to do with, I think Solas is quite reflective on the game. So if Palace are getting chances and they're pushing forward, normally the atmosphere is a bit better. But where we were sitting in and Bournemouth were dominating possession, and we were sitting in a low block, I think everyone was a bit nervy and just, I think in the end everyone was happy to go away with the 0-0. But yeah.
Interestingly, just a thought from the Bournemouth game. I didn't get a chance to get on the review show, even though I got home early from the game. They doubled up on the wings, didn't they? They always had 2 wingers, which nullified Munoz and Mitchell. It's almost that's the way they sussed us out. But the way we went into it is just a little bit disappointing, and this comes onto the Arsenal game. Oliver Glasner, we love him because he wants to win every game. So he'll have wanted to win that Bournemouth game, and he'll want to win against Arsenal. So that we need to factor that in when we're talking about who he plays.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. That's gonna be interesting because, as you said, he likes to win every single game. But you would think surely you would like to win a particular game a bit more than the Arsenal one, considering what's on the line. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But you were watching it at home, the Bournemouth game. I'll be honest, it wasn't. I know Lou mentioned how, and Nick said, once the players get going, once we have attacks, that's when the crowd get into it. But walking into the ground, I don't think it was even a factor of that. I think walking into the ground, people were just like, what on earth is going on kind of thing. Rather than the actual performance on a pitch. And that's why the atmosphere wasn't great because of the previous 2 games. But you watching at home is positive. Going into the Arsenal one, I guess we could take something from this game, and that's the defense. We finally fixed it. But what was the difference for you?
Well, clearly we set up in a a low to mid block. They mentioned it on the commentary that Pats were in a 5-4-1 from like the 12th minute on. And I get it. Glasner 100% did not want to concede goals during that match. It was clear. So the way we set up, and then the red card obviously spoiled it even more. But I just think that the emphasis was on defending. I didn't see Munoz or Mitchell get forward that much. There wasn't a lot of creativity. And I'll be honest with you, watching the game, you could tell watching the game that the stadium was flat. Couldn't hear any singing. You could kind of tell the players just wanted to get out there with the clean sheet. You got a goal, great, but basically just get out there without getting embarrassed with 5 more goals.
Yeah, and I think with 10 men, it was even more. I don't know how to word it, but it was a bit more of a relief that the fact that we could still do it with 10 men. You know, we've struggled with 11 against Newcastle and City, but with 10, we're limited chances against Bournemouth. But for you, Lou, the Arsenal game, let's get into it. A lot of people have been speaking.
Can I just come back to the 10 men and the fact that the player he brought off was Eza, and I don't think we missed him because Eza's so frustrating, isn't he?
No, I have to just disagree with that. How can we not miss the player who's been our best player all season? I think that's a little bit of a reactionary analysis on.
But he wasn't having a great game though. I'll sit next to you and you were saying that as well. He wasn't having a great game. So
but Ebbs doesn't have. Yes, because he's the spark. Just because Ebbs wasn't having a great game, he does it a lot of the time. He floats in and out of games. Then he's the one that produces what we need.
Yeah, I kind of see what you mean. I see what you're saying there. I thought the same about Darren Ambrose. Other than scoring fucking brilliant goals, Darren Ambrose didn't actually do a lot, did he?
Yeah, I think Ebbs. There's a lot of pressure on him based on the penalty miss against Newcastle. I think a lot of people kind of put that result on him, whereas I thought, yes, it was a horrific miss. Like I don't know what on earth he was doing, but we didn't lose 5-0 because of Eze missing that penalty. We should have defended better as a team. And I think that's carried on now with all eyes on him in the Bournemouth game. And the way he started it, he didn't start that great. So I understand where you're coming from, Nick. But saying that, of course, we'll be better off with Eze on the pitch than to not have him. But then again, there are some viewers who disagree. I've seen it in the comments. Like some people are saying he hasn't been good enough all season long. So it just depends on the perspective. But talking about Eze and the lineup and, you know, the importance of the Arsenal game, I'll be honest, normally against Arsenal, I want to beat them. It's a massive game. It's a massive game away from home. I know we don't really get that many results against them, and we always struggle against them, and we get spanked by them. So it would be nice not to have that. But in this game, I genuinely don't care about the scoreline. But am I right in thinking that? I can give this to whoever wants to go first, because you don't also want to rotate the whole side and end up losing 5 or 6-0 before semi-final game. But a lot of people don't factor that into it when we're talking about, we have to rotate the team because we've got Villa coming up on Saturday. So how does Glasner find the balance, Luke?
They got to see who's at what stage physically, who can play on Saturday, how many minutes they can play. I don't really know how to balance it because you need rhythm. You need rhythm going into the game on Saturday. Anyone who sits there and says we should change the whole 11 doesn't understand football, and there's just no point saying that. I don't think he's going to rotate that much. I think players will come off. You can make 5 subs. You can even make more. We can make 5 subs at 4 different occasions if you make one at half time. So I think it will probably be a strong side with a few changes with players coming off, but. Whatever team Glasner puts out there, I'm not really qualified to know how to rotate in this situation. I don't really know.
I think there's certain positions that we know that we can't really rotate in, and that's the defense pack, because we haven't got that many players. And with Chris Richards now suspended for this game, who do you play? Who do you play in defense? I think with the defense, we're going to go similar, apart from maybe the wing backs. We could rotate there, maybe Ben Chilwell in this game because, Mitchell, I thought he grew into the game in the second half. But there's certain areas of the pitch where midfield you can, attack you can. So I guess it just depends on how Glasner views it. But it will also be interesting to see what Villa do because they actually play Man City a day before us.
They've got 2 11s.
You can't compare what Villa will do, what we're gonna do. I don't think he'll rotate that much. Lou makes a good point. He wants to win matches, and I don't think he wants to kill any momentum may have gained from Bournemouth by putting in, let's say, 8 new players. I think you're right. Defensively, not having Richards is a big problem. I would have much rather like rested Lacroix as opposed to Richards. But now Richards is going to be rested because he's not eligible to play. I think that brings in obviously Lerma or possibly Klein to come in for him. I think now Gahey and Lacroix both play. I think definitely there's a chance that Chilwell starts. I think that he'll probably play Munoz because he always does. Maybe halftime he yanks him out for Kapora. And then midfield, you might get rotation in there. Possibly Kamada comes back in for either Walton or Hughes because they weren't. I mean, I thought Hughes played well, but Walton was not on it. But I would like to maybe see them play a full 90 together. But again, to me, listen, I don't care about Wednesday. I absolutely hate Arsenal and I hate losing to them. But my focus right now is totally on Villa. I can't help it. I just have my focus on trying to win that game. I mean, it's the biggest game in at least 3 years, and it's the biggest game for Palace's possible history if you get to the final and can win a cup. So as much as I don't want to lose to Arsenal, I think there's a lot of ramifications to possibly getting hammered on Wednesday. All I care about, my whole focus is on that Villa game. And Villa's they're going to be difficult anyway. But based on what they did against Newcastle, they're going to be very difficult. But I'm actually glad they played well against Newcastle because that shows us what we're in for. It's going to be a very tough game. Villa is I was there for the 4-1 game, and I'm glad we won that game. But they were good even at 4-1 game. They were good going forward. So it's going to be a very tough game. So, you know, I don't care about Arsenal. Sorry.
Yeah, same. And normally I would. And I think normally you would, but you always admit, like, we're not going to beat them. But the only thing I care about is making sure we don't lose 4 or 5.
Yes, I agree.
And if you rotate the side a lot, there could be that factor where we can just crumble once again because these players haven't played with each other, Nick. So yeah, it's an interesting perspective to find.
You've also got to consider Arsenal with they're consigned to second. They know, well, I say consigned, it's a good position to be, all in all. I think I watched the opening 20 minutes of their game against Ipswich yesterday, and okay, Ipswich aren't perhaps the best people to judge who a team's good against, but Arsenal really went for it, and I think they'll go for it against us. What I was thinking earlier was after those 2 5-0 defeat or shipping 5 in 2 games, getting the 0-0, I think we want to steady it and keep that rhythm going. I don't want the danger of a 5-0 capitulation, but if that does happen, I don't know how that's going to affect us going forward. So it's very, very difficult. But I'm just pleased that Glasner's going in it to win it.
I do think playing against Arsenal it's more than a dress rehearsal for playing against Villa. If you can handle playing against Arsenal away when they're in this form, because they're playing PSG on Tuesday. They've got the same mentality of keeping momentum going. They just beat Real Madrid twice. They beat Ipswich 4-0.
Yeah.
They're not going to come out and say, listen, this game, we've got a game in 6 days. We'll chill. And even if people like Saka doesn't play, Wanyeri is just as good out there. Yeah. They've got quality players, but both sets of players will be wary about getting injured. So it could be a bit of a weird game.
I'll take 0-0 right now if they want to accept it. I'll take 0-0. Maybe
people will take a 1-0 defeat right now.
Yeah, but I'm saying the Arsenal fans will probably take a 0-0 at this point as well. They don't really care. That's what I'm saying. It's a significant game as well. They don't care. Like Arsenal fans, I don't think Arsenal fans care about the Palace game on midweek. The only significance it has is that if we actually beat them, that means Liverpool have won the title.
Win the title, exactly.
And that would be amazing. But yeah, if we confirmed it. But I don't think they care. They already know. They already admit defeat.
Right.
But can we quickly talk about Waltons? Just in general, as well as in this game? I've said it for a few match reactions, and I'm not saying anything like crazy in terms of I'll drop him. Maybe don't play him in this game. Yes, I could be suggesting that, but not against Villa. He hasn't been the same. Why is that? And would you start him against Arsenal, Lou? Because I did think against Bournemouth, tactically, they kind of covered the spaces that he operates in, so he didn't get many opportunities to get on the ball. And during the game, I even told you, like, he barely took any touches in the first half. But what do you think is going on with Walton? Have teams kind of figured him out, and we have to kind of make adjustments to get him on the ball a bit more, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say teams have figured him out. They're just showing him a bit more respect. If a player comes from the Championship who's never played in the Premier League, that it's a bit like when you get a flying winger who's never played in the league, and then the next season they're like, okay, this guy he's something. We need to double up on him. It's just a bit like that. I still don't think. I think where we go direct, that's not really his game, because they bypass the midfield a lot, and also I think he's probably the only player who can really receive it with his back to goal in our third. So if you was an opposition team, you'd just say pass that, block that lane off to Walton, and they'll have to go more direct. Would I start him against? I'll be honest. I can't answer anything about who's gonna start Wednesday. I don't know. But he's not at the top of his form. But sometimes Wembley, I think Wembley's a sink or swim for some players. Like, you could get a player that's not been playing at 70-80%, but stepping out in an FA Cup semi-final in front of 90,000 people, it fires something else inside you, as well. It can make some players crumble.
No, ever since we beat Fulham, I think you could say the same about every player in their own way. I don't think any of them has been as good as they were before then. I think it's
only been Brighton, and then a couple of games. Brighton, they were good.
Apart from Brighton, ever since the
but that's Brighton.
But we're just naming 2 games, then, isn't it? 2 games.
Newcastle, Man City, Bournemouth. We can. It's more than 2 games. Ever since the Fulham game,
does it worry you that all the games kind of? I mean, Newcastle notwithstanding, but the moments in games that have changed the game completely. How's that going to affect us going forward?
For this one. And not just this one alone. I think we spoke about all season long. We normally tend to get 1-0 leads rather than go down a goal. So in this game, I'm looking at another factor where if Arsenal score, how do we react? We kind of don't react well to conceding goals because we don't concede that many goals away from home. However, good teams, they need to be able to adjust. They need to be able to make sure that they realize, we're 1-0 down. We still got a game to play. Or we conceded a goal, we still got a game to play. But with Palace, we kind of reacted negatively to that.
I did say that about 3-4 weeks ago when I said it.
Everything
was good, and I was like, "What's the one negative that we haven't seen?" And that was it.
And that's the negative. And I think in this game, going into maybe Villa as well, which will be another technically neutral or an away game, we're not playing at Selhurst Park. I think it would be incredible if we keep a clean sheet against Arsenal, but how do we react when going a goal down? When we're talking about rehearsals for the Villa game, I think that would be the big factor for me, Pat.
But I will say that we fell behind against Southampton, came back, got a draw. We went ahead against Man City. We went ahead. We went ahead. We were 2-0 up on City. Should have been 4-0 up, and we lost. The only game we went behind in and got smacked was the Newcastle game. So I do know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But to be fair, there hasn't really been a trend in these again.
Because the Man City game, we conceded a goal all season long. We've been struggling.
You just said before we were ahead 2-0 against City. How did we fall
behind? Yeah, but I'm talking about conceding goals. It's not even just 1-0. I'm talking
about that's a different point. Of course, when you can see goals, you're probably going to lose. I get that point.
No.
But your point was falling behind.
We'll tune up against Man City. We conceded a goal. And once again, the play's folded. We conceded a goal against Newcastle, 1 goal, and then we folded. Southampton, that's the only one we didn't fold.
Southampton, we came back.
Southampton, I was there. The performance wasn't good at all, and we should have left that game with nothing in that. So what I'm saying is,
I think you should talk about more. I think it's more about momentum shifts, not conceding. Because the Newcastle game wasn't going 1-0 down; it was the penalty miss.
It was a penalty, exactly. We were 1-0 down. We could have been 1-1 back, right? And that's okay. So you're gonna address that. I totally agree. Momentum shifts have been a problem. Being 2-0 up, conceding a free kick in the goal, momentum shift, big problem. Being 1-0 down, getting a penalty and missing it, could 1-1. Momentum shifts are a problem. I don't know how you address it. Honestly, I think that's exactly why I think that a lot of the games, especially the away games, I noticed a lot of games we went in a lot of those games 0-0. or maybe 1-0 up. But I think a lot of them actually were nil. The West Ham game, the Leicester game at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that we got to get back to the mentality of we just have to keep it tight. Just like against Bournemouth again. Bournemouth was a weird game because the Richards yellow red card messes everything up. It just messes up the whole way you want to play. And I think honestly, you're going at 0-0 with 11 men. You make that adjustment at halftime. I think it's a different game. Even though I think Bournemouth is a very good team. But I also want to say teams that we've lost to and we've played against lately have been the top teams.
Form teams, yeah.
Newcastle, City, Fulham, Bournemouth. Southampton aside, they're better teams than playing when we're playing the Leicester and the West Ham at that point. So that's the point. But I want to get back to the Walton thing really quickly. I think one of the issues with Walton is that he's had a different partner almost every match. Kamada, Lerma, Hughes. He's never had someone to go in there with. So yes, he hasn't played up to his top levels, but I think having Hughes in there for the next couple of games is massive. So I'd like to see him if I could. I like to see him and Walton start, even in the first 45 minutes against Arsenal, and 100% have them both start against Villa, because I think for him to get something going, and Lou makes a great point, bypassing him is not a great thing for him. We can get Hughes and Walton firing for the next match and a half. I think would be massive for us.
The good thing about Hughes as well, I watched him closely on Saturday. He is more of a captain out there than Gay. No disrespect to Mark. No, I mean he's always talking. He's always leading. He's always...
I think Gay. He's always talking. It's just,
Hughes is more vocal than Mark, but Gay's always talking as well.
Wait, how do we know this? How do we know this?
From what I see on the pitch.
What can you see? You can't hear. You lot can't hear anything.
No, but I can see his mouth move up and down. And
come on.
And it's more than a punching point as well.
See how he reacts to the situation.
Come on, guys.
You're saying this is not up for debate.
I'm saying you don't know.
Yeah, but you don't know either. What I'm saying is,
I never said one player speaks more than the other.
No. But what I can see on the pitch, Hughes does look like captain material. Are you denying that?
That's what I'm saying.
Gay's a better captain.
How do you know that? How do you know Gay's a better captain?
Because his performances, he leads by example, and he's a starter for England, and he's probably our best player.
Yeah, but you're talking about player-wise. I'm talking about actual captain material.
Do
you think speaking is just one form of being a captain?
No, it's not. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, in terms of being vocal and getting in players' faces, I expect Hughes to be more in that role.
He does that. But when has Hughes ever captained the side? He didn't captain Watford. Didn't captain Derby.
Oh, in terms of that, he's captain Palace.
Like once or twice.
Yeah, once or twice.
Right, but hasn't been right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If he'd been a captain of Watford or Derby, I would agree with you, Deep. I'm not really sure. But as far as being a vocal leader, he's a vocal leader. I wouldn't say he's a better captain though.
Maybe
Joe Walter be definitely vocal.
Maybe Joe Walter be the captain on Wednesday. That would be a surprise, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think he'll be playing. Right? Yeah, I don't think he'll be playing. But in terms of our approach, Patrick, you mentioned it. When we're looking at facing bigger sides, sides better than us, we've struggled. City, Arsenal, which we've already faced them twice. Do we change our approach? What do we do? What is it about those teams versus us? Because teams are always like, we face decent sides and we've been a decent side ourselves. But for us to go from one end to another and capitulate as we've done against these bigger sides, surely there's something that we're not doing right that we might need to change, whether that's the system, the mentality. What do you think it is?
Mentality more than system. Again, I'm not a big advocate of changing the system you played the entire season just because we're playing Arsenal or we just played Newcastle. Again, the system we play, the 5-3, 5-2-3.
3-4-2. No, it's like 3.
I know. You know it is. You know it is. No, wait.
3-4-2.
We were having it in our group chat about changing from a 5 to 4. That gets my head just now. You're right.
3-4-2-1.
Obviously, 3-4-2-1. Can obviously morph into 5 at the back. You can go with 4 and push Munoz up higher the pitch, etc. So I'm not big change in the system. I just think the mentality is the key, and pressing triggers. I think a lot of times, like Bournemouth, we didn't press against Bournemouth hardly at all. And I think when you got Munoz on the pitch and you have Mateta to win balls high up the pitch, creates more opportunities for you to score goals, makes more sense. So for me, I don't want to change the system, but I want the system and the mentality to change, because I think if you do certain things better on the pitch, you'll do better. Again, but this is the thing, you're playing better sides. I mean, I'm no disrespect for some sides that we beat and that it was great, but Newcastle, Villa, Arsenal, they're better than what we were beating before. And again, it's not a put down on teams we're beating, but they're better teams. So you've got to, the mentality's got to be better. And again, those little changes, as far as, again, a free kick that's won and then scored, a penalty that's missed, are momentum shifts that we can't afford to let happen against Arsenal, obviously, on Wednesday. But more importantly, again, see, you got my head. I'm talking about Villa already. Villa for Saturday. I don't care about Wednesday. I just don't care about that much.
I think stylistically, Arsenal are the worst team for us to play. I think personally, like their style of play, their style of play, their physicality, their set pieces, they are literally their technical side on the ball.
Don't forget their shit housery.
Yeah, but just stylistically, I think Arteta's like a good tactician as well. And you saw what happened when we played them in the cup and when we played them at home. Just little flicks of switches, and they was. Well,
I will say though, honestly, the players that to me really hurt us in those games are not going to be available. Gabriel Jesus killed us in that game. Every time he shot the ball, he scored. And Havertz killed us in those games. No put down to Marino. He played really well, but they don't have that focal striker.
Odegaard came on and really destroyed us.
Odegaard and Saka. I'm not getting. I'm talking about the up top of the pitch players who remember in the 5-1 win. Then they must have taken like maybe 7 shots and scored 5 goals.
Yeah,
they were so clinical. You know what I mean? So and they don't have Havertz.
If anything, we should be the ones being more physical and getting them to take players off. Kick Saka first minute.
Second minute and then third minute. Exactly. Yeah.
Where do you think the game can be won and lost?
I'd start Nketiah. I think just curveball. And he scored against Arsenal.
I think we can all talk about who we want to start or who we think should start, but I think this is one of those ones where it's just as a fan on the outside, not knowing what physical state our players are in, we can't really say who should start and who we think should play.
But if players were 100% fit, Mateta and Nketiah, who would you start, Lou, in this one?
I don't know.
I'll start Nketiah.
But that's why we're on stream and you're not a manager.
Yeah, but that whole purpose.
What reasoning? What reasoning?
The reason for that is we're gonna have a game from Saturday to Saturday, so Mateta would have.
But if you wanted to win the game,
I think you can still win the game with Nketiah. Okay. He's got to go against Arsenal.
Okay, like, I'm just saying, but
yeah. Well, for me, I don't think. I think this could be a good opportunity for Eddie to start against his former side away from.
We said that about the last how many games, and he still don't start him.
Yeah, but the last how many games, I haven't said that I start Nketiah.
Can I ask you a question now? Seriously, D. On a serious note, all right. We all know how much you've backed Nketiah, and I get it, and I got no problem with it. He's a former Arsenal player. If his name was Austin Edouard, would you be saying the same thing? Honestly.
No, because Austin Edouard is a worse player.
Okay, fair.
He's not even on the bench for Leicester. So yeah,
I'm not saying that I don't think Nketiah should start. I'm just saying I don't.
And I don't find him starting either, by the way. So I'm just saying
it's such a hard task with a smaller squad and the biggest game. Like I would say, much bigger than Chelsea because we got the manager we have and the players that we have.
Right.
I would say this is bigger, and if Chelsea were a better team, then they would just coming off winning the Champions League, I think. And City and Liverpool were the other 2 teams. So like even if we got through that, we probably wouldn't have won. This is the biggest opportunity we've had to win the FA Cup since 2017 or 16. So it's so hard for him to choose what team to pick. It's hard, and only he knows because the physical level of each player. Like Munoz could probably play for 60, 70 minutes. It wouldn't affect him. Right. Whereas other players, it might. And then you don't want players playing who are going to hold themselves back. So he knows the players on a physical and mental level. We don't really know them. So it's like
it's the biggest conundrum of the season, really, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
You know, it's
to be fair, the biggest conundrum is who starts on Saturday against Villa because that's the biggest.
I think that's pretty obvious.
On the
do you think it'll be hard? I'm just saying, like someone like Lerma, people might think that Lerma might be key for that game because he didn't he come? He changed the game when we played them at home. It was he came on and changed the game.
Yeah, so, Will Hughes struggled actually. He got a yellow card. So, yeah, he was struggling.
McGinn scored Hughes all game. Yeah. So listen.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a Villa preview. Just quickly on this one, where do we think the game can be won and lost based on what we've seen in the previous 2 games against Arsenal?
if Arsenal down tools, then we have a chance. If Arsenal play at the capacity they've been playing, we have no chance. I don't think.
Do you think a more of a direct approach could help us because of Arsenal's press? And if that's the case, then do you even start Walton? Because you said that you think us being more direct is, we don't get the best out of Walton.
I think Arsenal have got to be on an off day, and we've got to be our this. The only way you beat these top teams is they're playing at 70-80%, and all your players are playing at 100%. That's the only time.
I think tactically you can still offer something like you just
tactically. No, I'm not saying that.
We're facing,
that doesn't make sense, bro. That doesn't make sense.
We've beaten Man City before. We've beaten, top sides before.
Okay, and how did we beat them? Every single player. Did you not listen to what I said? I said every player who is playing has to be playing at 100%, and the Arsenal or the other top team have to have a slight off day.
But did Villa have an off day against us when they were still creating chances, etc.? Like, they weren't a bad side when we beat them 4-1. They weren't completely off. My point is, you can still go head to head against these big sides.
I wouldn't compare Villa and Arsenal.
Yeah, I don't know. They're on form. But where do we think the game can be won and lost, Pat?
One, taking our chances, and two, again, I mentioned before, them not having Jesus and having a true striker. We can't allow people like Martinelli to pop up and score goals. If
Trossard,
yeah, we just can't allow them to be as clinical as they were. Because again, the cup game wasn't that bad. The 3-2 loss. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, you guys are both there. I thought we played well enough, but again, they were just, once they put on their subs, they just absolutely destroyed us. Once Odegaard came on, Saka came on, it was ridiculous.
That's what I mean.
The home game was just, to me, I thought we played well until, like I said, every time they shot the ball, they scored a goal. It was ridiculous. They were so clinical in that game. So
we kept missing chances as well.
Right, but exactly. But Luke said, at our top level, we can't beat Arsenal. They play at the top level.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They have to be at some point down. And again, we don't necessarily play that well at that stadium either. Historically, I'm trying to think of a good game back then that we played in historically. I don't remember that many.
Not since the 2, but I'm saying I think we have a chance.
When Benteke and Edwards scored, right? So.
You always have a chance. I'm just saying Arsenal have to have their mind on PSG.
Yeah, that's not.
And we've
still got our mind. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like we both got our.
It's a weird fixture. It's a weird fixture.
I'm thinking tactically, Palace need to make sure in the wide areas, especially with the wing backs, they need to be more switched on. I think that's the area I think they could just dominate.
And also,
midfield, they're already going to control. I don't think we're going to be able to compete with them in midfield, but I think they're going to try have players in wide areas and running behind and balls into the box like that.
I thought we've been hurt mostly when teams play through the middle.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to play through the middle. That's my point. I think they're going to play
when they get in those pockets. When they get in those,
they're going to.
As soon as you start dragging our back three all over the place, that's when we look terrible. Like you saw it against Newcastle. That for sometimes there was just like one defender was all the way out here. Barnes was having a free run at Lacroix. Murphy was finding himself in those pockets.
But why was that? But why was that? That's because Mitchell was out of position and Munoz was out of position. So we had to have Richards and Gahey go out wide and do their job. And that's why I think this game, when you're looking at, defensively, what we need to do, I think they're going to target our wide areas, and we need to make sure that even if we're pressing them, to make sure there's not that much spacing behind. Because as you said, if Mitchell pushes up, if Munoz pushes up, then Gahey has to shift, or I don't know who else will be on the other side. We'll have to shift, and that's where you have the back three moving, and that's where they'll destroy us.
I'll just go to I'll go on a nasty low block. Really,
exactly.
Nasty low. I'll just try and frustrate the crowd. The crowd. It's not a massive game for Arsenal. The crowd might not be up for it. Try and frustrate them going at 0-0, and then maybe bring on the fresher legs on 50, 60 minutes, and I think that's the way you go.
Yeah. Given that we're like near the top of the league for set pieces, it's a shame. I've got to mention Jordan Ayew because he's going to be playing his very last Premier League game soon, I'd imagine, if he's picked for any more Leicester games. So I just wanted to salute him. But he used to win lots of free kicks. If we can kind of do that and try and get a sneaky set piece in.
But they've got
the same amount.
They've got a whole set piece coach. They have a mural set piece coach. That's how good they've been. So it's not going to be.
Yeah, but we don't need one. We're that good at them. Yeah.
And for that reason, Lerman's starting in defence because of Rich not being there. because otherwise, in set pieces, they will eat us up.
You don't want to see Ward and Martinelli in his pocket.
No, but that's different. That's different position. Well, yeah,
Ward, different position, but yeah,
you can start centre back. But no, I think Loma is a guaranteed starter at centre back.
Yeah,
honestly, I would be so much more confident because of how he's in the air. And Glasgow knows, like, they're gonna set pieces could cost us the game. We could be well disciplined. We could allow no space in behind. Let them have one corner, and you don't have, and you have Nathaniel Klein or Joe Ward there. Boom, 1-0.
Can't we register Paddy for one game and just get him at the back, just to marshal it?
I'll take it for your day contracts. I'll take it. Anything else before we wrap up and move on to score predictions? Of course, the Villa one's going to be the big one, so we'll do a preview for that. But anything else people want to mention? I think we spoke about everything. Spoke about players. Spoke about games being won and lost. Anything?
I've never seen us win there, so we ain't winning, and I'm going. So.
Oh yeah, you're going to the game. Yeah.
Oh, don't go.
How about you don't go? Exactly. Why are you going?
Some of us are more dedicated than others. That's
yeah, exactly.
Wait. How far you live from there?
Huh?
How far you live from there? Genuine question. How far you live from Emirates?
It's one train.
It's one same way. It's one train from Norwood Junction. It's one train from me.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully I don't live in Norwood Junction, so it's not one train for me. So yeah.
East Croydon to Finsbury Park in 20 minutes actually.
I don't live in East Croydon either, so it's going to be
okay.
for me as well. So
yeah.
But anyways, you can go and enjoy the game, and hopefully you can turn that tide around because we don't really want to lose to Arsenal. Score predictions: they beat us 3-2 last time at the Emirates. Then of course we got spanked at home. This game, are we expecting any different with the Villa game coming up? I'm going to go first. I'm going to go for 2-0 Arsenal. 2-0 Arsenal.
I'm going to go 3-0 Arsenal.
Okay. Nick?
1-0 Palace, just for the lols.
Imagine.
And Kamada would score.
I used to always give positive predictions about Arsenal, but I gave up. Like every time
I will not be given a prediction for that semi-final. By the way,
we get one. You got.
I didn't do one. I didn't do one for the Fulham one.
Okay, fair enough. Pat,
I'll go 1-1. Yeah,
1-1. Wow, that's positive. I'm surprised. You didn't say like 4-0 Arsenal. Normally, I'm the one that's saying.
I'm never going to predict 4-0 Arsenal. I'm never going to happen. It can happen. But I'm not
my other one.
Yeah, Nick, do you like Arsenal or are you like? What's your stance on Arsenal?
I like them more than Chelsea, but they're from Woolwich, man. I mean,
yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap up there. Let's see what happens against Arsenal. As always, like, subscribe. The big one is on Thursday against Villa, which we'll have a preview for.
Thursday?
No, on Thursday we'll be recording the preview. That's when it'll be coming out. The big one's on Saturday. But
shouldn't we really be going live on Friday for that game?
Well, we can go live anyways. You can do Thursday and Friday. You know, it's a semi-final. So yeah, we'll be back. Match reaction. I'll be doing it with AJ tomorrow. No watch along. So no, not tomorrow. On Wednesday. But yeah, it's a busy week. Like, subscribe, and until next time, I'm Palace.